Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible?
You're audible, sir.
Okay, so all those who are enrolled, have you written the answer?
Yes, sir.
Have you submitted it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Right. So all those who are enrolled, right, you have this opportunity. Do avail it. By tomorrow, you should be submitting it, right? At least you would have some practice related to the thing which is going on, right? And so most of the aspects we had covered yesterday. Today,
The
remaining
session 1 PDF we have not got yet. PDF of session.
yes, see, session 1 PDF, and this is what we'll be discussing today. These are the topics which were left yesterday, right? So although they are scattered around the PDF according to the theme, but I have created a different PDF for the topics just to just to pace up the process. The final PDF I'll be giving up to you tomorrow, right? Because some of the things, let's say the Sangam literature and some additions I need to make up in the Mughal literature and all. So by around maybe 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. you'll get the final PDF, right? Which would be organized properly, right? And would have all the details, right? So these are so you print the PDF tomorrow only, right? Otherwise it would be double effort for you, right?
Okay, sir.
I've shared the draft PDF 1 yesterday. I've shared the PDF of session 2 as well. The final PDF I'll be sharing tomorrow, right?
So draft PDF of session 1 has been shared.
Yes, I guess in the channel it has been shared.
I can't see it. Only session 2 is there.
Okay, it has not been shared. Just a second. Just a second. I've shared it, right?
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So it won't be a long class today. Just 2-3 topics we have to discuss: the cave architecture, the sculptures, and some music and IVC and bronze sculpture, right? Nothing more than that, because most of the topics we had discussed yesterday, right? Any doubt in yesterday's topic to anyone? I guess no doubt. So beginning with the cave architecture, see, the cave architecture, it evolved from the Mauryan till the post-Mauryan period. The Mauryan thing that you'll be finding in the PDF, which will be coming tomorrow, because that is just 2-3 details are there. The most prominent happenings which happened in the cave architecture was during the post-Mauryan period, right? So two types of rock cut caves, chaityas and viharas, and these all developments are mostly during the post-Mauryan period, right? So just remember the names, the dynasty, and some prominent features so that you can mention it, right, in your answers, right? It is not like for prelims you need to remember each and every detail. That is not possible. So Karle Chaitya by Satwahanas, the prominent feature, it is a double story cave. Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, Kharvelas, prominent feature, Hathi Gumpha inscription, which says that the caves were meant for Jain monks. Kanheri caves, Buddhist sculptures and paintings. It is famous for Buddhist sculptures and painting. So these are the 3 caves for which you need to remember one pointer detail, right? Now comes the major caves, Ajanta caves. In Aurangabad, World Heritage Site, 29 caves, 4 chaityas, situated on river Vaghera. So this is like, you can say, the introduction kind of thing, or you need to just add a padding kind of thing, right? Question won't be centered around this thing. This is the only surviving example of the paintings of 1st century BC and 5th century CE, right? So a continuity in paintings is illustrated through Ajanta paintings, right? Ajanta caves. Fahin, Hyun-sang mention about them. So you use this thing in paintings as well as you use this thing. Let's say a question on travelers come, right? This is the way you should be reading this PDF, right? It should not be read in isolation. I'll request all of you to mute your mic, right? Otherwise it disturbs the class, right? This is the way you should be reading the PDF. Whenever you find a particular point which you feel has relevance, let's say a particular point about Buddhism is coming, a Jainism is coming, right? You know that if you read it in the flow, probably you won't be able to, connect it when the question centers around Buddhism. So I'll say whenever a point comes, just segregate it according to the theme of Buddhism, Jainism. Only in this, via this PDF only, you will get enough points which will, be enough to make up a good answer, right? Therefore, you do not need to run behind too many things, right? Faheen, Hyun Seng, they mention about them, the patrons of the Ajanta caves, Vaktakas, and later the Guptas. Cave 16, 17, 19, if you can remember, they were patronized by Guptas. Early caves were Heenyan, later were Mahayan. Themes, Jatak stories, Buddhas, and Avdanas, right? Cave 19 and 26, they are decorated with Buddha and Bodhisattva images. Cave 26 has the biggest image of Mahaparinibbana image. Right? What is Mahaparinibbana?
Death of Buddha.
Death. Right? Ajanta paintings. Now this, I told you yesterday that we'll be discussing the cave paintings when we discuss the cave architecture. Ajanta paintings, only Buddhist paintings. Heroic proportions, that means they are of larger size. There's a feature of centrality, that is, the attention has been drawn to the most important person in the painting, right? Spontaneous and unrestrained flow of colors and everything, right? So these are the features you need to mention, right? I've told you that, okay, these are the things you do not need to remember, right? That is your optional for you. But Ajanta caves, Ajanta paintings, they themselves, and moreover when it relates to Buddhism, that is an important theme, right? So if you remember these points now, it will definitely give you an edge. Absence of blue color is the striking feature, right? When tomorrow I give you the PDF, these points, the important points will be bold, right? Now these are the specific caves and the paintings which have been found there. Cave 1, you find the paintings of Padmapani and Vajrapani. Who are these?
Forms of Buddha.
Right, Bodhisattvas, right? They belong to the 5th century CE, having the lotus in right hand and half closed eyes, right? 2-3 details just so that examiner knows that, okay, you know the details, right? You cannot remember 5-6. You should not be going without any detail, right? So this is the optimum you need to remember. Cave 16, dying princess painting. Cave 17, Buddha, Yashodhara and Rahul and Apsara. Cave 26, Mara Vijaya, Buddha surrounded by Mara's army. It is a part of the enlightenment process. Mara is shown contemplating how to disturb Siddhartha, because after only getting enlightenment, Siddhartha became Buddha, right? So that's why if you mention the name as Siddhartha, this shows the level of maturity you have about Buddhism, right? Next is the Ellora Caves, Maharashtra World Heritage Site. They have all the 3 religions from 1 to 12, Buddhism. Next onward, Brahmanism, and 5 caves of Jainism. Buddhist cave 1 to 12 belong to the Vajrayana sect. Very big, massive pillars. Cave 10, Vishwakarma cave or the Carpenter cave, most famous Buddhist cave. Cave 12, 3-story cave. See, once you have just listened to all this, now it becomes very easy for you to revise. So don't get into that thing that, okay, if the same thing is going on in the lecture and I have the PDF, I'll save my time, right? You won't save your time, you will double up your time, right? Because when you listen to the lecture, you create certain connections, right? Brahmanical caves from 13 to 28. What are the themes? Ravan shaking Kailash, different avatars of Vishnu. Cave 14, it is the only 2-story Brahmanical cave. Theme, Ravan ki Khai. Cave 15, about the Dashavatar temple. Cave 16, this is important one. Kailashnath temple, also known as Kailash Leni, by Rashtrakuta's ruler Krishna I. Please mute your mic, right? I'm telling you again and again, it disturbs the class, it disturbs the recorded video. Cave 16, Kailashnath temple, also known as Kailash Leni, by Rashtrakuta ruler Krishna I. It is a monolithic sculpture, right, carved out of one rock. Remarkable example of Dravidian architecture with Pallava influence. Right? Jain caves, they belong to the Digambar sect. Notable Jain caves are Chota Kailash, Indra Sabha, Jagannath Temple. I just remember these names. So if a question comes that the Ellora caves were a mosaic of all the three religions, explain with details, right? These details should be there, right? You cannot beat around the bush there. Elephanta caves near Mumbai, dominated by Shaivite faith, Shaivism, contemporary with Ellora, right? So again, this timeline kind of things, it helps you to see the things, right? That okay, Ajanta was during this to this time, Ellora was during this to this, Elephanta was during this to this time, right? So if a timeline type of question comes, this is where you get the hints from, right? Sculptures, they show slenderness in body, stark light and dark effects. Again, these 2 points so that you have something to write, right? Otherwise, there are 200 points. You cannot remember everything. What is the famous sculpture here? Trimurti, Mahesh Murti, 6th century CE, central head of main Shiva figure. Other two are invisible heads of Bhairav and Uma, right? Just remember this much. Bagh caves, they are the Buddhist caves in Madhya Pradesh. Architecturally, they are similar to Ajanta caves. Among the two caves where Gupta paintings are visible, right? So Gupta paintings are visible in Bagh caves and Ajanta caves. And let's say a question comes around Gupta period, and specifically one of the portions is the paintings, right? You know what to write now, right? You cannot miss on the Bagh caves. Junagadh caves, what is the distinguishing feature? It is in Gujarat. Distinguishing feature is the high citadel known as Uppercote. Right, just remember this one-liner information. Nasik Caves, the other 24 Buddhist caves known as Pandavleni, influence of both Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism. Right, Eastern India may be we found caves mostly in coastal Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. In Andhra Pradesh, the two prominent places are Guntapalli and Annakapalli near Vishakhapatnam. So the informations are the details are Vihara style is vaulted roof, the small dimension. Chaitya style is circular with a stupa. In Annakapalli, it is a huge rock cut stupa carved, and it is one of the biggest rock cut stupa of the country. Right. These many details about the cave architecture. If the question is of moderate level, you will be able to do it. If the question is of very extreme level, probably no one will be able to do it, and the thing then boils down to that you just make out a decent average answer about whatever details you have, right? Next is stupa architecture. This is also of the post-Mauryan period, right? They became larger and more decorative in post-Mauryan period. Stone started to be used instead of wood and brick. Two major stupa architectures, Bharhut and Sanchi. Bharhut, it is famous for sculptures, depiction of narratives. The narratives show how the artists, they were using the pictorial language to communicate, right? We have not been there, we cannot be there, and even if we see the images, we cannot recall anything, right? That how they are depicting. We just need to remember that okay, in the Bharut sculpture, what is the important point is that the narratives which are shown there, they have certain you can say thing in them that they seem like that the language is being communicated, right? And they have maximum they have done maximum utilization of space, right? Sanchi, next phase of development, that is in the post-Mauryan period, right? This development started, this development gained further momentum, right? Otherwise, the Sanchi Stupa development is started in the Mauryan period also, Mauryan period only, right? And this developed along with Stupa development at Mathura and Vengi, right? So why did I mention this Mathura and Vengi? Because this keyword needs to come there, right? That okay, whenever the Stupa question comes, you should not be like only Bharut and only Sanchi. Just drop the keyword Mathura and Vengi and the examiner would be satisfied. Just a second. 3 stupas are Sanchi. I have mentioned the details, so it means it is important, right? You need to remember that, okay, these are the details. And the stupa architecture, the basics of stupa architecture, they begin with Mauryan period. The Mauryan period is still left, right? The arts of Mauryan period, just 2, 3, 4 points in them. So that will be given to you in updated PDF, and everything would be arranged according to the things, how the things should be, right? Stupa 1, this is about the relics of Buddha. It has upper and lower Pradakshina path, circumambulatory path. Pradakshina path is covered with a Vedika, right? Small, you can say ornamentation kind of thing. 4 decorated torans depicting events of from the life of Buddha and Jataks. Ashokan lion capital here, right? These are very easy points. These are those points which you can recall and you can replicate, right? That's why I've mentioned these points here. Right? Buddha is shown symbolically as empty throne, feet, chhatri. This can be remembered. Guardian images on pillars, they are known as Shalabhanjika, right? This can be remembered. These are 4, 5 points. Let's say a 5 marker question on Sanchi Stupa comes. What would be your thing, right? You mentioned that it began during the Mauryan period. You just draw a diagram, right, which you'll be getting in the PDF itself. And then you explain the details that, okay, there was Stupa 1, which has having these many details, stupa 2, stupa 3, right? Stupa 3 is about the relics of Arhats. Stupa 3 is about the relics of Sariputta and Mahamongoliana, right? Then just fodder points for Buddhist monuments, right? This does not connect naturally with any topic, but if Buddhist architecture comes, these can be fodder points, right? In South India, Vengi in Andhra Pradesh, stupa sites like Amravati, Bhatti Prolu, Goli in Nagar Junakonda, right? In Amravati, you have a Mahachetya, you have sculptures, and you have a Pradakshina path. Like Sanchi, the early phase is devoid of Buddha images, but later Buddha images are carved, right? Because as and when the influence of Kushanas increased, their tilt toward Mahayana Buddhism increased, and naturally the Mahayana Buddhism started to gain, importance. The phase shifted towards Buddha images, right? So it happened at Sanchi as well as it happened at Amravati as well. What is the prominent feature? Slender figures and animated movement has been reduced, right? So these are those points. You just need to cram these points, right? You cannot understand these points. Next is the theme of music. Music has not been asked till date, but we'll be just covering the basics here so that if a very basic question comes, you can answer that, or if a question comes where you need a bit of analysis, you can do that, right? Hindustani and Carnatic. The source is the Natya Shastra of Bharata. It split into 2 divisions somewhere around 13th century CE, right? Hindustani and Carnatic music, North India, South India. Here the ragas are divided into That. The ragas are divided into Melakarta. Just remember this thing, right? Nothing more than that. Time of raga strictly observed. Time of singing raga, right? Not signing, singing raga, strictly observed. Here the time was not observed. It can be sung at any time. Various gharanas evolved, which we'll be discussing later. No gharana, equally divided between vocal and instrumental. Vocal is like more of somewhat classical. It is more vocal. Scope of improvisation is more. Here the focus was more on compositions. That is, you have lesser flexibility, right? Shruti concept not practiced, and here it was practiced in detail, right? So these are 6, 7 points. You just need to remember this, and if a basic question comes, just replicate these points over there, right? Schools of Hindustani music, Dhrupad was the first one. It is the oldest and the grandest. It reached zenith under Akbar. It is also mentioned in Ani Akbari. Now see, again a literature kind of thing comes and you have got a point. You would, let's say a question on literature comes, you say that Ani Akbari mentioned Dhrupad, right? Raja Mansingh was also a patron of this music. It was, the music was more important than the lyrics. It was less flexible. That is, you needed to adhere to certain things. Proponents, Haridas and Tansen. Gharanas, just factual detail. If you can remember, you may. Otherwise, you can leave. What are the Gharanas associated? Dagri and Darbhanga. Right. Done with it. These would be 20-30 words. At max, the utility would be this much only. Right. Khayal, origin, Amir Khusro. There was a greater scope for improvisation. You know the conditions during the time of Khusro, right? It was a more liberal period kind of thing. Particular raga and tal with brief text, Gharanas, Gwalior, Patiala, and Agra, right? Patiala and Agra, you can imagine on your own that, okay, this was the central area of the Delhi Sultanate at that time, right? Thumri, origin in eastern UP. It is a romantic and erotic style, themes of love, separation, and pain. Tarana, rhythm here plays a crucial role, and it is based on fast tempo, right? Very quick, dun 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 essay, right? Ghazal, expression of both pain and love. It reached zenith under Mughals. Right. This much is important. This much is needed. This is some folk music. Just इसको पढ़ लेना कहीं पर कोई 2-3 पॉइंट यूज करने पड़ जाए. This much is more than enough. Right. Instruments again. Tartwadya by vibration of chords like veena, not vena, veena. Violin. Shushirvadya by blowing the wind, flutes and reeds. Avdhan Vadya by striking animal skin, tabla and dholak. Ghan Vadya, earliest instrument like manjira and ghungroo. सिर्फ बजाना है उसको, right? Then the next topic is the sculpture wala topic, right? The topic which we did na, Gandhara, Amravati and Mathura. This topic will come underneath it, right? So just to have some specific details about those sculptures, I have included these things, right? So and since this has been mentioned in your fine arts NCERT in 11th, so probably this becomes important. Seated Buddha. Seated Buddha in Mathura. What are the prominent features? You see Buddha with two bodhisattvas, Vajrapani and Padmapani. Buddha is seen in Padmasana plus in Abhay Mudra, seated on lion throne. The garment of the Buddha, known as Sangati, it covers one shoulder of Buddha. Halo around seated Buddha in Mathura is very large, right? It is decorated with simple geometrical patterns, right? Next is seated Buddha at Sarnath, made of sandstone. It is basically tuner sandstone. But even if you remember sandstone, that is more than enough. Buddha again in Padmasana, delicate outlines, rhythmic. It represents the Dharma Chakra Pravartan. What is this? What is Dharma Chakra?
Spreading Dhamma in all directions.
Right, when he gave the first sermon, right? Drapery. The drapery here is transparent and it clings to the body. Round face, half closed eyed, back of the throne, profusely decorated. Right, so Buddha is sitting here, right, and the back it is decorated. Right, the images I'll include. Right, these are the points which would be remembered according to your capacity, right? Drapery ऐसी थी, face ऐसा था, eyes बंद थी. If you can remember, if you feel that you can remember, maybe you can remember. Otherwise, try to remember those points which you know in culture you can recall, right? Because ultimately the final game boils down to this thing only. Next is the related topic of bronze sculpture. Since this is a separate chapter in fine arts NCERT, na, this becomes important. And since they once have asked the Tandav dance, so probably it connects to the bronze sculpture. Right? Bronze sculptures of Buddhist, Jain, Hindu icons have been discovered using the lost wax process. This lost wax process, this has been discussed later in the IVC art. Developed in North India as well as South India. Need to remember the details and the points regarding what developments were there in North India, what developments were there in South India. South India, usually we remember there were 2-3 developments, but very prominent developments. In North India, there was some 2-3-4 points, just you need to remember that thing, right? Dancing girl at Mohenjo-daro, it has been discussed later in IVC art. Then a chariot has been found at Dehmabad. During the Kushana period, images of Jain Tirthankars have been found in Chausa, Bihar. Standing Buddha image in UP, Bihar. Sarnath style bronze at Sultanganj, Bihar. Vaktaka bronze images, they were contemporary with Gupta images. So you know that, okay, during the Gupta period as well, bronze sculpture and bronze uh, things were made, right? They were, this point you can remember, this is easy to remember, they were portable and monks carried them from place to place, right? In Himachal Pradesh and Kashmir, bronze images of Hindu gods and goddesses have been found because Hindu region was prominent in that region, right? Nalanda school of bronze casting emerged. Jain bronze found at Akota, Gujarat, right? We know that Jainism flourished in Gujarat region, right? So remember just 5 5 6 points out of this, so that if need arises, you can reproduce these points. Important thing, the South India, it reached high stage of development during the medieval period. Pallava, uh, Pallava period was known for the bronze icon of Shiva. It suggests that the image suggests that he's about to drink poison, right? So we know one point which is related to Pallava. That is more than enough. In the Chola period, the climax of bronze architecture, bronze sculpture, Queen Mahadevi was the prominent patron. It is well known for the dancing figure of Shiva as Nataraja. And another sculpture, important sculpture, is Kalyan Sundar Murti. Right. In the Vijayanagar period, you find sculptures of Krishnadevarai, right? Bronze sculptures of Krishnadevarai, right? So these are the developments in South India. The most prominent development is the Nataraj image in the Chola period, right? So this is depicted here that Lord Shiva is shown balancing himself on the right leg and suppressing the apasmara, the demon of ignorance, with his foot. Left leg raised in this stance, which shows the kicking away of the veil of Maya, right? That he is warding off Maya. Four arms are outstretched. I'm reading this so that you hear this and you know, at least when you read it again, you know that, okay, this thing was in my mind, right? I've heard this somewhere, right? The main right hand, it is in Abhehasta. The upper right hand holds the Damru. Upper left carries the flame, and main left in the Dola Hasta, right? Tandav dance, it has been asked, right? This was what is supposed to be written. Hairlocks fly on both the sides, touching the circular jwala, the garland of flames, right? So 2, 3, 4 points we have seen. At max, the utility would be again a 5 marker, and this much is enough for a 5 marker. At max, you can draw this image, right? Next is the art under the IVC. We have discussed the architecture. I've made some additions in architecture as well regarding some places, like, okay, what was found in Mohenjo-daro, what was found in Harappa and other places, right? Now we discuss the art of IVC period. We found the sculpture, seals, pottery, jewelry, terracotta figures. The stone art which we found were at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They were excellent examples of 3D volumes. Two main figures were torso in red sandstone and bearded man in soapstone. The images I will include, right? Don't worry about that thing. The bearded man, he was found in Mohenjo-daro, made of steatite. Steatite is the main material from which stone and seals, they were all the main material in stone from which seals were made, as well as the stone sculptures were made, right? He is interpreted as a priest, the bearded man, draped in a patterned shawl, half closed eyed in meditative concentration. So few details, so that if a question specifically comes on, you know, IVC art, and let's say it is a 15 marker question, these are the details which should be there, right? You cannot escape these details, right? Short beard, armlet in right hand. Then bronze casting. So first thing, stone. Next is bronze casting using the lost wax technique. Just read this. This is the lost wax technique. You must be knowing this thing. See, do not think that they cannot ask a very simple question. Explain the process of lost vertical wax technique. If they decide to go very simple, this question can be there, right? So at least you should know what is lost wax technique, right? The concept of that thing. Dancing girl, bronze figure of a bull, copper dog, and bird. These are the bronze sculptures which have been found in IVC, right? The most important is the dancing girl at Mohenjo-daro. Long hair tied in a bun, bangles cover left arm. She wears an amulet, a necklace, right hand on hip, left hand in traditional dance gesture, large eyes and flat nose, right? The images, when they will be included, that will make much more sense to you, right? Bronze bull, this is another, so that if a question centers around bronze sculpture, you know that okay, this thing also I can mention, right? Bronze bull, it is in Mohenjo-daro, known for its massiveness and the way the picture is there, right? It shows some fury, which is, it shows some, fierce attitude of the bull, right? It has a cord around the neck. Next is the terracotta images, the most prominent being the mother goddess, next terracotta mask and toy cards. Mother goddess from Mohenjo-daro, standing female figure, necklace hanging over the breast, wearing a loin cloth, fan shaped headdress, ऐसी सी कोई ड्रेस है उनकी जो सर पर है, pellet eyes, beaked nose, right? ये याद कर सको तो कर लेना, वरना इतना ऊपर वाला याद कर लेना बस, right? This much is more than enough. Then seals were that thing which gave the most of the information about the Harappan period, right, or the IVC period. Right, if you do not read this topic, na, mostly your discussions would be that okay, bearded man was there, you won't be remembering the details. Okay, dancing girl was there, you won't be remembering that. Maybe you would put in the name of mother goddess, but you won't be remembering the details, and the final output would be maybe a 1.5 or a 2 mark maximum, right? But a person who has remembered these details, and these are not difficult details, right, he would be getting a 6.5, right? Seals, mostly of steatite, as I told you, occasionally of these materials. The important unicorn, bull, rhino, tiger, bison. Standard Harappan seal, it was 2 by 2 square from steatite. Script yet to be deciphered. Mainly for commercial purposes, also used as amulets. Perhaps they were also used as identity cards. So these are all details regarding the seals, right? You are getting some information about the IVC period from the seals, right? So let's say a question comes that describe the importance of seals. You know what to write. Let's say a question comes that the seals were the prominent features which described a lot about the IVC period. You know that what you need to, you will write that okay, it showed that they were used for commercial purpose. It showed that they were used for as an identity card, right? They were used as amulets. The script is yet to be deciphered, right? Some seals have also been found in gold and ivory. Seals with the swastik sign have also been found. The most prominent seal is the Pashupathi seal, right? Made of steatite in Mohenjo-daro. Human figure seated cross-legged. That is the Pashupati deity. He is seated cross-legged. He wears a 3-horn headgear, right? On head, he wears a thing which is having 3 horns. Then elephant and tiger to his right, rhino and buffalo to his left, and 2 antelopes below, right? Pottery, both wheel made and few were also handmade. Plain pottery was more common than the painted ware. This is plain pottery, right? This is generally of red clay. Black painted ware also found. Polychrome pottery also found. Generally, the small vases which were found, they were of polychrome, right? Multiple colors. Incised ware, just remember the keyword. Perforated pottery. This pottery, you can remember this thing, right? It had a large hole at the bottom, small holes all over the pottery, right? And it was used for straining beverages, right? So you see the utility, right? Let's say a question comes that IVC is a civilization which was used not only for its, just aesthetic appeal, but also had significant utilitarian appeal, right? So thrice, 4 and 5 times, right? Significant example, painted earthen jar of Mohenjo-daro. So this is the significant example of the pottery, right? Beads and ornaments, both men and women wore it. Necklace of gold, semi-precious stones. Bead industry most likely was prominent. Large number of spindle and spindle whorls have been found. Spinning of cotton and wool was very common. Naturalistic models of animals have been found. Cinnabar was used as a cosmetic and lipstick was known. Right. So this much details. Just remember about the IVC period, the art of the IVC period. Right. That is more than enough. Right. Next is these are the PYQs. I have included it here, and this has been included in a very comprehensive manner, so that maybe some points you can gather. Plus also you can see how the answers need to be written, right? I'm not discussing them. Why? Because I want you to read it very consciously, right? Because the answers are very elaborate. They will give you a very good idea about the things, right? So question, this was asked in 2020. Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and art in India. Approach: discuss homogeneous Indian culture as a result of foreign elements brought by people during immigration. Discuss the impact of different movements on the architecture of India. Conclude, right? So India has been traditionally, and you can read this thing, right? So during the Shaman movement, there was some developments which talked about then the Buddhist Jataks, right? So these are all philosophies which are directing your art and architecture, right? Then the Gupta period, then the development of Dravid and Nagar architecture was attributed to the philosophy which was prevailing at that time. Then the Bhakti period, Chandela architecture, right? Then we come to the Mughal period and conclusion, right? The next is about the stupa art. We have discussed the stupa art. This is having some uh, more additions to that thing, right? Is my voice breaking in between?
No, sir.
It was earlier, sir.
Okay, right. So this is I will maybe I will request you, or I'll say that I would want you to all of you to read these questions, right? These have been very high quality model answers which have been framed, right? So do not miss on to them. And PYQs, they are the life and soul of UPSC examination, right? If you are comfortable with PYQs, be rest assured that you would be doing good in mains, right? So this is the thing. This is the practice question for the day. Literary sources during ancient India gave a lot of information about the prevailing conditions of that time. Right. Try to write this answer. This is based just if you have the information, just if you know have those facts with you and you know about the basics of how things have flown from ancient and medieval, right? You would be able to write this answer. More or less, we are done for culture. If you feel anything which is left, you can tell me here. Just the Mauryan developments have been left, 2 3 things. The beginning of stupa architecture, the beginning of cave architecture, right? Nothing more than that. Anything which you feel has been left or which you feel can come in mains and has not been discussed, I'm asking for topics. Anyone?
So the questions like the comparison between the Takshashila and that university, Nalanda University, why was this famous, why was that famous? Is that an aberration or मतलब अलग अजीब क्वेश्चन आ जाना है या
Not
वो
an
वही है
aberration, I would say. The question was, I guess, in 2014 or 2013, somewhere
या
in that time. It was in news in that time because Takshashila was in news, right? So they framed a question around Nalinda and Takshashila, and basically because Nalanda everyone reads and Takshashila was in news, right? So that was the reason.
Okay.
And moreover, do not worry about most of the previous year questions which are relevant now. We'll try to provide them to you, right?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Because it is a very intensive process. It takes some time to make previous year questions if they are to be made in quality, right? So
Okay.
per day 2 questions are being possible.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
So can the different types of sun temples can come? Like in prelims also we had questions regarding a sun temple.
I do not think so. That probably sun temple, right? Not a very, not a thing which everyone would remember. So my idea is probably not, right? But yes, if you have mentioned this thing, let me just write it somewhere that I'll include 2-3 more points about sun temples, right? So if you have any, any topic which rings in your mind now, although most important topics of current affairs as well from the culture perspective, they would be covered, right? Because the tendency, the shift has been seen in UPSC towards the current affairs as well, as far as culture is concerned. But for that, you need not worry. That work would be done by us only, right? But first, I would require you to just go through this PDF, right, twice or thrice, be comfortable with it, because the current developments would only be just 5 to 10% of the things, right? And about what I was saying is, you feel that okay, any topic this has relevance for means, right, this has not been covered, just message at the SOMP inquiry, right? If you are having some mentor, message him, right, that probably if it would be better if you could cover this topic, right? Any doubt to anyone?
No, sir.
I'll request all of you, at least those who are enrolled, please write the answer, right? This is the process you need right now, and it won't take you more than an hour, right? Just 30 minutes to revise and probably 20 minutes to write if you are slightly slower in the beginning, right? But if you create this habit, the sessions would be more fruitful to you, right? You would want to attend sessions. Otherwise what happens, initially बहुत जोश होता है, then everything fades out, right? So this question thing, this can keep you in the loop for next 1.5 month.
सर ये पीडीएफ हर क्लास के पहले ऐसे मतलब ड्राफ्ट वगैरह कुछ मिल जाएगा ना, ताकि रिवाइज करके अगर अभी लिखना चाहे तो भी?
ड्राफ्ट हर क्लास के पहले, मतलब जो भी पीडीएफ क्लास में डिस्कस होनी होगी ना, वो आपको पहले ही दे दें।
ठीक है सर।
बाकी फाइनल पीडीएफ मैं आपको कल दे दूंगा इसकी।
ठीक है सर।
Any other doubt to anyone? ठीक है, I guess no doubt, no point in wasting more time. ठीक है, नो पॉइंट इन वेस्टिंग टाइम। आप जाओ अपना पढ़ो, ये पीडीएफ रिवाइज करो, आंसर लिखना आंसर लिखो, कुछ और पढ़ना है कुछ और पढ़ो, राइट?